Welcome to the St. Lawrence Seaway, a monumental feat of engineering that connects the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. This incredible waterway stretches over 2,300 miles, enabling ships from all over the world to venture deep into the heart of North America. The Seaway is more than just a route. It's a lifeline for commerce, a gateway for explorers, and a passage steeped in history and innovation. In this mini-series, we'll be exploring one of the most fascinating segments of the Seaway, the series of locks along the St. Lawrence River, each playing a vital role in this intricate system. First opened in 1959, the St. Lawrence Seaway was the result of a groundbreaking collaboration between Canada and the United States. The goal was ambitious: to create a navigable route for ocean-going vessels, allowing them to reach the industrial heartlands of North America. The construction of the Seaway was a colossal undertaking, involving the excavation of massive amounts of earth, the construction of complex lock systems, canals, and dams to manage water levels, and the rerouting of entire communities. The result is a network of channels that overcame natural barriers like rapids and waterfalls, transforming the St. Lawrence River into a vital transportation corridor. In this series, we'll focus on the first 7 locks of the St. Lawrence Seaway, starting with the Iroquois Lock with the border between Ontario and New York State, and ending with the St. Lambert Lock near Montreal. As we take our sailboat down the St. Lawrence, we'll be able to see the marvel of engineering of these St. Lawrence River locks. 5 are on the Canadian side of the river, and 2 on the U.S. side, all designed to manage the river's flow and ensure safe passage for vessels of all sizes. While the St. Lawrence Seaway is essential for massive freighters transporting goods across the continent, it also offers a remarkable experience for recreational sailors. In this mini-series, we're placing a special focus on the journey of personal watercraft, particularly our own passage through the Seaway aboard our beloved sailboat, a CNC 33. This isn't just a documentary, it's a shared adventure as we navigate the same waters that have carried countless vessels before us.
Hello.
As we are traveling from Lake Ontario to the Atlantic, our adventure begins at the Iroquois Lock, the first lock in our journey downstream. As we make our way through each lock, down to the St. Lambert Lock near Montreal, we'll share every aspect of our experience. Each lock presents its own set of challenges, and navigating them requires a special blend of preparation, skill, and sometimes a little bit of patience. Navigating a sailboat like ours through the Seaway is a unique experience, combining the serenity of river sailing with the technical demands of a lock passage. Each lock is an engineering masterpiece, designed to carefully raise or lower vessels as they navigate the varying water levels of the St. Lawrence River. Positioning the boat correctly as you approach, securing it safely inside the lock, the CNC 33, with its sturdy design and responsive handling, is well suited to this journey. The Seaway allows passage for all vessels greater than 6 meters. As we progress downstream, each lock serves as a stepping stone, gradually lowering our sailboat from the higher waters of Lake Ontario to the broader deep channels leading to the Atlantic. This journey is not just about navigation, it's about experiencing the natural beauty of the St. Lawrence Seaway. Every lock has its rhythm, and every sailboat passage has its own story, and ours is no different. For those of you who are recreational sailors or planning a similar journey, I hope that our experience will provide valuable insights into what to expect. The St. Lawrence Seaway is not just a passage for massive freighters, it's a playground for sailors, offering both serene beauty and the occasional challenge. From the smooth waters within the locks to the sometimes unpredictable conditions of the open river, we'll share our experiences, river currents, timing bridge openings, and lock schedules. Finding some great anchorage spots along the way, our journey is filled with lessons learned and memories made. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive into the details through one of North America's most important maritime routes. Whether you're here for the technical details, the beautiful scenery, or the joy of sailing, we promise an adventure worth watching. So for transiting the St. Lawrence Seaway locks, this is the required equipment and the process to follow for a personal watercraft. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to register on the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway website to book your day of transit in advance and pay your fees. And at this time, the fees were $120 Canadian. And that covers all the Canadian locks. So the two locks, Eisenhower and Snell, are on the US side, and they take cash, either US or Canadian, and the cost is $60. So when you approach the Eisenhower and Snell locks, they'll send somebody over to pay at the pleasure dock, or when you're in the lock, they dropped a zipper bag to us that we just put the money in, and they let us to transit. The two locks over there are fairly close together, so it's a quick transit through both of them. But all for the Canadian side, you have to pay online, and at this time it was about $120 for us to do all the Canadian locks. So pleasure craft at 20 meters, 65 feet or more in overall length must have a VHF radio. Make sure that you have adequate fenders. It is possible to be tied up. It's possible to be raft tied, not just tied up. So when you come into the canal, they want larger boats against the wall. And then as the boats get progressively smaller, they're raft tied to the other boats. So that way they can fit more than one in. You need to have two line handlers to handle the lines at the Canadian locks. The US locks use a floating bollard instead of lines that you attach your own lines to. So you don't need them there, but all the Canadian locks, they supply you with two lines, one for the bow and one for the stern. And, I'd imagine you probably could do it with one, but I think you need two as per the regulations of the locks. You definitely need approved life jackets for all crew. And you would want to have the U.S. certification as well as the Canadian certification because the lock's on both countries. And your boat must have all equipment specified by the Safe Boating Guide for Canada, as well as the Recreational Boating Guide published by the U.S. Coast Guard. And a couple notes on bridges, specifically the two bridges, 9 a.m. and 9:40 a.m. bridges. Those are the times at the Beauharnois Locks. They're timed to open before the 11 a.m. lock opening at Beauharnois Lock. So basically you go through one bridge and then the other bridge, and you will have, it'll be timed to let you through to make it to the Beauharnois Lock at 11. And they have a similar lock at the lock near Montreal, or the bridge near Montreal. There's one bridge that you need to pass through between or coming up into St. Catherine Lock. Approaching a bridge, a yellow flashing indicates that the bridge operator sees you, and he will start the bridge opening procedures. Wait for the green. Do not pass on the red. You might get answered on VHF 68, but don't expect to. I'm going to say this section of the St. Lawrence has fairly strong current too. It's about 2 to 3 knots, especially near Salaberry to Valleyfield. That's where on approach to the Beauharnois Lock. The river current was actually quite strong there. It was 2.5, 3 knots. So there's an emergency anchoring spot in front of the lock. So if you're going downstream, the current is basically pushing you into the bridge. So you got to be careful there. Just make sure your engine's working well. And a note on the tie-up side, heading downstream from Lake Ontario to Montreal, all the locks are starboard tie-up, with exception of the two Beauharnois locks. Those are on the port side, and it would be the opposite on the upstream. So on the upstream, all the locks are on the port side, except for the Beauharnois lock, which is on the starboard side, if you're going upstream. So just be aware of that, so you can know ahead of time to have your fenders on the right spot when you go in. And then if you're told there's going to be somebody rafting, just deploy those extra fenders, and away you go. And just a couple of bullet points here for talking about navigating the locks when you're going downstream. Just from experience here, this is what we figured out. So first off, as you approach the lock, just make sure that you keep monitoring VHF channel 68. They also use 14 as a working channel. So it's just good to hear. You might hear updates or instructions from the lock attendants on there. And the other thing is make sure that your boat speed as you're coming into the locks are slow. We used 5. I think the maximum is 6 knots of boat speed, but there's no wake, so don't be zooming in there. And before entering the lock, look for the designated pleasure craft dock located before the lock. Again, this video is geared towards sailors and personal craft. The commercial vessels don't do that. They know what to do. But there's a small pleasure craft dock that you can go to and approach. And specifically at Iroquois, there's a telephone that you walk up to talk to them. They don't really answer the VHF there. But they want you to stop, so don't just go up into the lock. So docking, approach the pleasure craft dock kind of slowly, secure your vessel up, ensure your fenders and lines are ready. The dock's not that high, so the fenders needed to barely touch the water for us. And then once docked, locate that call box provided for the pleasure craft and use it to notify the lock attendants of your arrival. And after making the call, wait for further instructions to appear on the electronic display board at the dock. They did specify on the when the next lock opening would be on that display card for the pleasure craft. I think it's a commercial override, so you might have to be a little bit patient. So after you've been called in, the lock attendants will update the instructions on the display board. Make sure you follow those instructions. Wait patiently for the lock's traffic light system to change to green, indicating that it's your turn to enter the lock. The pleasure craft dock is like right there at the entrance, so once it's green, just bolt off the dock and go into the lock. Watch the lights. Generally red means busy. Flashing yellow and flashing red means the lock is being prepared. Do not go through until a green light is present. The lock doors might be open, but the line handlers are not ready, for example. And the lock attendants may also make announcement over the PA system to guide you into the lock. Listen carefully and prepare to move as instructed. And then once you get into the lock, once the light turns green, proceed. The lock attendants will guide you on where to secure your vessel inside the chamber. Have your fenders out and lines ready to secure your boat. And just specifically on the Iroquois Lock, because it is a water level management lock, it has a very minimal drop. The process of securing your vessel is usually pretty straightforward, with no significant turbulence expected. All the other locks have significant drops, and there's some water turbulence, but easily managed with 2 people. The hydraulic systems ensure a smooth and controlled transition. So there's little current or no noticeable current within the lock itself during the process. The main river carries the river current, which bypasses, it goes over the dams and around the lock. So there's not much in the actual lock itself. And some current considerations to consider. As you prepare to exit the lock, be aware that that while the current within the lock is minimal, the St. Lawrence River downstream can have a moderate current. So plan your maneuvering accordingly, as the river's current can affect your vessel's handling once you leave the calm waters of the lock. There's a couple spots, especially over by Cornwall, where there's a flow of water coming across into the main channel, and they put a water break there because it's fairly significant. I would say easily 6-7 knots spewing out beside the Cornwall Island. So exiting the lock, once the lock gates open and the signal is given, proceed slowly out of the lock and into the river. Maintain a steady course and keep a sharp lookout for surrounding traffic, as the St. Lawrence Seaway is a busy route frequented by large commercial vessels. It's pretty common to get past, and some of the areas of the channel or the river are fairly narrow, so just be aware. And just as a sailboat, we hugged the starboard side, and we had enough room to go around, but just pay attention if there's not one coming behind you. That's probably a little bit more precarious. And some navigation tips for the St. Lawrence River: just stay within the marked channel, closely follow the navigational aids to ensure a safe passage, be prepared for varying conditions in the river, including changes in wind. You typically have it kind of pushing you downwind, but it can come across as well, so just pay attention. And it's definitely going to be different significantly from the calm conditions you experienced inside the lock. And keep monitoring VHF Channel 16 for any further instructions or updates from the Seaway authorities. Navigating the locks, definitely a memorable experience, and following these procedures ensures a smooth passage. And it keeps this vital waterway operational and safe for all vessels. So enjoy your transit.